What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. Making the turn on this week. Dan Kasper Show is on the air, radio dials, online, sportstalk1051.com. Got the app, your Google and Alexa home devices. The Facebook video feed, YouTube video feed, also available on Twitter. Appreciate you making us part of your starts on this Wednesday morning of November 2nd. Oh man, what do we got on the game plan for the next couple hours, next 3 hours here? Well, Packers, even though every single team in their division made a move yesterday by the trade deadline, Packers stand pat. Minnesota acquiring TJ Hawkinson from the Detroit Lions. The Bears acquiring wide receiver Chase Claypool from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Allegedly, Green Bay was also involved in a potential deal with Chase Claypool. Allegedly, reportedly, Green Bay also offered a second-round pick, which Chicago sent over. But just like the Khalil Mack situation from a few years ago, again, reportedly, Pittsburgh opting to take Chicago's second-round pick because they felt like it would be a higher pick when it was all said and done. So, yeah, that's just the things that are being reported out there. But the bigger picture here, it was a crazy trade deadline. Bradley Chubb going to the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins boosting up their pass rush too. But bigger picture here is that the Packers do not make a move before the trade deadline. Do not add a wide receiver. Do not add anybody via the trade. So, I posted something up on good old Facebook and Twitter shortly after the trade deadline yesterday. And let's just say the majority, except for a couple, very small contingency, but the wide majority not happy with the lack of moves from the green and gold yesterday. So we'll chat about it. We'll talk about it coming up here in just a little bit on the opening drive. Shout out to the Honorable Travis from A-Town who sent this message on over after the trade deadline, and I kind of liked this question too. But he wants to throw it out to the rest of you too. Do you think with a lack of moves, or no moves, I should say, not lack of, literally no trade moves yesterday by Green Bay, could it have a similar or same effect like the Brewers when they traded Josh Hader away? Could it have a similar effect in terms of the locker room? For what it's worth, while the trade deadline was open yesterday, Aaron was doing his thing with Pat McAfee. He made a comment about, he was hoping to break some news during a segment involving a trade or such, but that didn't happen at all yesterday. So, but I thought it was an interesting question. I thought it was a good question from the Honorable Travis from A-Town when he sent that over. So I want to throw it out to all of you. Do you think this could have a similar impact to what, the Josh Hader trade was for the Brewers, where mostly involving the clubhouse aspect of it? So in this case, the locker room. A little bit different, obviously, where, the Brewers move on from one of their best players in the midst of a playoff run, whereas Green Bay doesn't acquire a player that could help push them towards a playoff run. All right, so your thoughts, your and that's, kind of revisiting yesterday, for our press pass question. Like, if I had one big question, just one question that I would like to ask, I would love to ask Goody. And to be real about it too, not like a one-on-one. We're sitting up at the bar having a couple of brewskis, and I'm like, just be honest with me. Like, what's your vision? What's your mindset? Why, what goes through your mind and this sort of stuff? We see other teams and making moves and kind of going for it and all that sort of stuff. Like I would love to, get the real answer, not just the answers that are thrown out there in pressers and all that, but like get the real inside stuff on there. Bill Huber, who also covers the Packers, has a piece up that he put out overnight on SI.com, and quite the headline with it. Packers had a chance to help their team today. They did not. Whether you agree or disagree, today's decision was emblematic of their way of doing business. With that, Aaron Rodgers' fate as a one-time Super Bowl champion might have been sealed. Whew. Yeah. So, speaking of Aaron, an interesting comment yesterday during his appearance at the Pat McAfee show, kind of talking about the energy of the team before the Bills, which kind of raised some eyebrows to some people. It's like, what does that mean? And a big vote of confidence, or a big endorsement, I should say, is probably the best way to say it, with Samari, the rookie wide receiver from Nebraska. So we'll play that clip too. I'm sure you kind of heard about it shortly after the game on Sunday night, but Von Miller again with Richard Sherman on his podcast. Remember that play was at 4th and 1. Green Bay tried running it, didn't get it. And Von Miller, you can see, said something to Aaron, and Von, again, doubling down, saying that I'm not going to tell you what he said to me. I'm not going to use this platform to get blank started. So, don't know what exactly he said, but Bucks are also back in action, so we'll talk a little hoops. Can the Bucks go to 7-0 to begin their season? Again, going up against the Detroit Pistons before they make a quick trip to the west, just across the border, facing the Timberwolves on Friday, then quickly back home, going up against OKC in Milwaukee. But Chris Middleton may be getting closer and closer to potentially making his debut with the Bucks. That has been assigned to the Wisconsin Herd, which is the Bucks G League affiliate. Now, obviously, this you would think is a positive move for Middleton's recovery process and eventual return. But at the same time, I'm sure the Bucks are going to be cautious, not rushing back, especially with the start that they've had to this season. It's allowing them to maybe be a little bit more patient, a little bit more, cautious with his return. But still, good news that Chris Middleton is progressing through his rehab, and now we'll probably be getting some game work in with the Herd, with the Bucks G League team. So good stuff there. Kind of a crazy World Series last night too. You guys watching that? Phillies just powering through with home after home run after home run to take a 2-1 lead against the Houston Astros. So Phillies taking command right now. That Game 4 coming up tonight too. So can the Phillies actually go up 3-1 right now? What do you think? Can they do it? The way they're hitting the ball right now, never say never, but a fantastic night for the Phillies last night and taking that 2-1 lead in the World Series. So we'll see if they can grab that 3-1 lead, or if the Houston Astros can tie it up. But Phillies blasting a record-tying 5 runs last night. Also on the game plan, we got the college football playoff rankings last night. We got those babies revealed. Maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I think I don't know. I don't want to speak for a majority, but kind of nice to see a different team up at number 1. Tennessee coming in at number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. So in the AP Top 25, it was Georgia at number 1, Tennessee at 2, Ohio State tied up there at 2, I guess, and then Michigan at 4. But the college football playoff rankings, a little bit of a movement. Tennessee number 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Clemson 4, and then it's Michigan and Alabama to round out your 6. So, again, just putting up a little bit more, adding a little bit more to this weekend's game with Tennessee versus Georgia. This is a heck of an opportunity for Tennessee. Georgia's still favored by 8.5 in this game, but if the Volunteers of Tennessee can go in there and get that W, and as long as they don't have a hiccup afterwards, because they got Missouri and South Carolina and Vanderbilt afterwards, man, they're going to be that number 1 team in the country for the college football playoff. So I'll talk a little college football, and as the Badgers too getting ready to face Maryland. But if you're looking at some of the other, who would be the next Big Ten team in the college football playoff rankings outside of Ohio State and Michigan in these rankings, it's Penn State at 15, but right behind them, Illinois at 16. Believe it or not. Yeah. All right, we got a little showdown, as we usually do on Wednesdays. The years that we're going to be doing a showdown against will be 1971 versus 2005. If you don't know what showdown is, that's where we kind of got a bracket thing going on that we do every Wednesday to decide the best year between 1963 and 2010. Kind of a little bit of a change of pace here as we're making the turn on this week. But we decide it by debating the best year with 3 sports, movies, and music. So we'll get to that around 8:20. Stock down, stock up. What's your stock reports? Whose stock is rising, or whose stock is up, and whose stock is down? We'll hit that up about 8:05. So you got some time to send over your suggestions via quick text on the Shoe Doctor's bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or Twitter at DANKASPR, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Plus, we'll get to a good Vibin Wednesday story too. Triple Valley Habitat for Humanity, good Vibin Wednesday story. So plenty to get to here this morning. That's your game plan here for this Making a Turn Wednesday. Let's get things rolling on the opening drive, chatting a little football. Trade deadline has come and passed. Packers standing pat, while the Vikings at a tight end, the Bears even adding a wide receiver, day after they trade Roquan Smith to Baltimore, they go and kind of surprise a lot of people by acquiring a wide receiver, but maybe we shouldn't be too surprised because they finally maybe get a receiver for Justin Fields there. But nonetheless, Packers standing pat. Are you in the majority of your frustration level? You're upset, you're disappointed, probably words you can't say on the air. Kind of, I guess, a little bit of a grind my gears Wednesday coming at you. But what are your thoughts on that? Plus, we'll play that clip from Aaron yesterday on the Pat McAfee show and that sort of thing. So again, we had that Twitter poll up yesterday, and the numbers were 66.4% of you did want to trade. So 66.4% of you at least are probably a little upset this morning. Let's talk about it. We'll take that first break. And the opening drive coming up. Trade deadline is coming past. Packers standing pat. We won't hear from Goody, at least I don't think, but we will hear from Matt LaFleur later on today, so he'll have to answer for that. That should be fun for him. Mark your calendars. Next Friday, November 11th, Veterans Day. We're going to be doing the show from Hy-Vee because Hy-Vee, for your veterans, free dine-in breakfast for veterans, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. while supplies last. Plus, they're going to get 15% off grocery purchase for veterans and active military members. So that's a fantastic thing that our good friends from Hy-Vee doing for our veterans on Veterans Day next Friday, November 11th. So while you're stopping on over for some breakfast, come over, say hi. Brandon's going to be with me over there too. So looking forward to it. Put it on the calendars. Next Friday, we'll be doing the show from Hy-Vee. And then don't forget to stop on by if you're a veteran, or if you're not even a veteran, stop by and have some breakfast with us. But free dine-in breakfast for veterans, November 11th, 6 a to 10 a.m. while supplies last. And don't forget about that 15% off grocery purchase too. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning on the opening drive. All right, so Packers, they don't make a move. Stand pat. Reportedly, they were in talks of with the Steelers about Chase Claypool, but reportedly, again, similar to the whole Khalil Mack situation from a few years ago. Both, I guess, if we believe these reports, Packers offered a second rounder, Chicago offers a second rounder. Apparently, the Steelers are going with or went with the Bears offer because they felt like the Bears second round pick would be a better pick than what Green Bay second round pick would be. That's reportedly what's out there. But, you know, a few of you yesterday were kind of chiming in too, saying the thing that would really grind your gears or frustrate you is you're always hearing Green Bay's in the conversation, always in the conversation, but they never actually pull the trigger and get things done. Now, we don't know how these conversations go. We don't know what's on the up and up, but I get the frustration. In fact, I'm a little frustrated with it here too. It is a little frustrating because, you know, again, we see it as if there was ever a year to make a move, I mean, how many years now in a row have we talked about whether the Packers should get a wide receiver by the deadline or draft another wide receiver high in the draft? It's been a few years, even with Devontae in place. And then, you know, the other years you could maybe make the case of like, well, you know, they got Devontae and such, so they still got a number one guy. Well, if there was going to be a year that you would think they would acquire a wide receiver by the trade deadline, you would have thought it would have been this year. But no, nothing, nada. And when you look at the free agents next year, it's not that good of a group. And I know things could change. Teams can release players and that sort of thing. So it potentially could maybe add a couple under. But, you know, if you're looking like, okay, maybe next year free agency, it ain't that good. And then, you know, the draft experts are already saying, and the draft is a crapshoot. As much as I love the draft and all that, it is a crapshoot. But, you know, these draft analysts who look at this 365 days out of the year are already saying too that the draft they're not a lot. It's not really deep at wide receiver. So it's like, all right. So it's clearly obvious that Green Bay is going to roll into this thing with their youngsters, with Romeo Doubs, with Christian Watson. Hopefully he can get healthy and stay on the field. Maybe we're going to see more Samori Toure. We'll get to Aaron's thoughts on that potential or on that here in just a second. But with no moves, and this was kind of brought up a couple weeks ago, maybe just a week ago or so. But with the fact that Green Bay didn't make a move, does this tell you anything, in your opinion, how Goody, Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst, feels about his team for the rest of the season? So the fact that they didn't make a move, does this kind of tell you that maybe he doesn't believe that they're good enough to win the whole thing and that they're just not one player away? You know, I kind of saw a little bit of that yesterday where, you know, some analysts out there were saying, there was actually a couple of them saying Green Bay did right by not making any moves because they're not just one player away. So, do you kind of feel like maybe that's what Goody was feeling a little bit there too? But then on the flip side, it's like you look at Bill Huber's article, who covers the Packers for SI.com, is like it's like, all right, does that mean that all right, that championship window is closed, is shut. Let's play this little bit of a clip too, kind of going back and forth here too, but with the young wide receivers, and I mean now it's there's no there's no sugarcoating it. They really got to step it up, and they're gonna have to take a bigger role. There's not Brandon Cooks, there's not Chase Claypool, there's no other wide receiver that's going to be coming in the short immediate future to really upgrade this group. So a little bit more pressure on these youngsters. But are we going to see a little bit more Samori Torre? We'll hear from Aaron here. Plus, I want to get your thoughts on what he says about the energy of the team heading into that Buffalo game. I have a theory, but I want to get your thoughts. So we'll play a clip, audio courtesy from the Pat McAfee show yesterday. All right, so that's just a small portion from Aaron's conversation yesterday with his good buddy, Mr. Pat McAfee, yesterday. So, obviously, a lot of vote of confidence, endorsement for Samari and also Romeo Dobbs there too. So, I would have to imagine, we're probably going to see some more Torre out there. And why not? Right? I mean, let's see the Nebraska kid. And remember, we've been saying this, Aaron even mentioned about Samari in minicamp. High praise from minicamp there. So, these Romeo and Samari, that we talked about pressure heading into this season and the expectations. It just got a little bit more on their shoulders, a little bit more on their plate with the fact that Green Bay didn't go out and get another wide receiver. So Here we go. That's what we got to ride with. But going back to what he said at the beginning of this thing was the energy aspect of it, where that's the 8th game of the season, halfway through the season, and that's finally where the energy felt like it was ready to go there. Like it finally felt like they were, amped up or whatever. Well, what in the heck was taking so long? Part of me is wondering, like, as a team, as the players, were they just a little too confident? Were they just a little too cocky, overlooking teams, thinking, we know we're good. We got this. I mean, confidence is a great thing, no doubt about it, but it also could be a dangerous thing too when you're overconfident and maybe looking at or looking over some of these other teams here. So I don't know. If I had to wager a guess, maybe that's part of it where they just like, you know, opening up against Minnesota. Yeah, we got this. We got this. We're all in this year. We're going for the Super. We're gonna go to the Super Bowl. You got your butt spanked. Chicago, okay, you get the win. Tampa, you squeaked out that win. New England, yeah, took overtime to get it done. Giants, you had a lead and then collapsed. Jets, Washington, same thing, had a lead, collapse. And then finally, you're in a hole at 3-4, and nobody's giving you a shot, and it's prime time, and that's when you finally got the confidence. Maybe that was like a wake up call, sort of thing. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of because like I said it last year, I get so annoyed sometimes by hearing players or coaches talk about a lack of energy before a game, talking about a lack of like motivation or whatever it may be. And I get it. I mean, anybody who's played at a level, there's been times where it's like, yeah, you can just kind of feel like the energy's down. We've all kind of been there. Doesn't matter what level. Could be middle school, could be high school, could be college, whatever. We've all kind of experienced that, but at the same time, it's like, how do you not get pumped up? How do you not get excited about, you know, playing a football game or playing a basketball game or whatever it may be, playing a game? And the only times like where I'm guilty of when I'm thinking about back to my good old days, the prime days of playing and whatever, it's like, you maybe get a little overconfident, like, oh yeah, we're going against that team. Yeah, please. We got this. You're not saying it out loud, but you're thinking it. It's kind of creeping in your mind. Like I remember one time it was a basketball game. We were like 9-0, and we were going up against a team that had won one game, and we're having the captain's thing before the tip off and that, and I remember one of the guys like, yeah, we're 1-8. You guys are gonna take care of us. We ended up losing that game. Man, I think it was just because we kind of started as soon as we heard that, it was like a mindset, like, oh yeah, we got this. And we lost the game. Now I don't know if that's exactly what's going on, but maybe just they got a little too much in their head, too much reading the clippings a little too much. And finally they got to a point where they're 3-4 and they're like, oh, you know what? Oh crap. And then they still lost against Buffalo. But it was a game where I'm not moral victories in that, but there was stuff that we maybe felt a little bit better about. That's the only thing I can think of. But they better switch it around now. Better kick it into high gear here because that third quarter of the season is going to be pretty tough. Now, Detroit firing their defensive backs coach. They've traded T.J. Hawkinson, their tight end, to a division rival in Minnesota. It's a team that's kind of swimming right now. And now they've got Green Bay, I mean, it hasn't always been pretty going over to Detroit there. But, I mean, this is a must win for Green Bay. There's no doubt about it. This is a must win. And now, with not acquiring a player by the trade deadline, not acquiring another wide receiver to go with the youngsters, not, going with the Brandon Cooks or whoever else it may be, or maybe not adding on another pick for Chase Claypool to get that deal done, whatever it may be. It is putting more on the younger wide receivers, but it also is, and rightfully so, putting more on the quarterback. You're getting paid $50 million. You're a 4-time MVP. back-to-back reigning MVP. This is putting more on your shoulders, and it should. 100% it should. And you shouldn't back down. I don't think Aaron's going to back down from it. But this is now, we're at this point in time. We're heading into the third quarter of the season. You're on the outside looking in. This is where your guys need to step up and carry that team. Put them on their shoulders. I'm talking about Aaron right now. This is where he's got to step up his play too. He's been a little up and down. He had a good game this past week against Buffalo. Would be curious to know if Tom Clements actually graded him higher. Okay, it's a bad joke. But this is now where, okay, we're riding with this team. This is what we got. Let's ride. To quote Russell Wilson. Let's go. So it puts more pressure on those younger receivers, but it also puts more pressure on Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. Game planning, calling the plays. Everybody's got to step up their game. You know, I kind of threw out the question, does this kind of send a message, like from Goody's standpoint, like, yeah, we're not a player away, so, you know, I'm not going to overspend for just one player because we're more than one player away. Does it kind of send that message, or, you know, kind of what the Honorable Travis from A-Town said, you know, does it send a similar message, or will it have a similar effect to the Josh Hader trade? Or are you on the opposite side of, like, maybe this is the GM telling his team, I still believe in you guys. I still have confidence in you guys. I'm riding with you guys. Let's get it done. That's the optimistic one. That's probably the answer that, you know, if you were to ask Goody that's probably what he would say. Is like, I believe in this team. I believe in this, in the guys that we got in this current roster, and we're going to roll with them. That's the optimistic one. And optimistically hoping that that's what the players kind of view it as well. Maybe specifically the younger guys in that. Remains to be seen, though, if it's going to work. But, you know, as we said at the beginning, when we did that poll, there's at least 66.4% of you who have to be a little bit upset this morning that there was no trade made, that there was not a vet or a wide receiver acquired. That's according to our poll that we did leading into the deadline. But is there anybody out there that's willing to say that I'm glad they didn't make a move, and not because you're hoping